Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today Madison McKenzie. And before we bring Madison up here to share a presentation about their work, I wanted to share with you a little bit of a bio. So Madison is originally from Metro Detroit and pursued a BFA in print media from the Gwen Frostic School of Art at Western Michigan University. She is currently an artist in residence at the Kirk Newman Art School at the Kalamazoo Institute of Arts. She considers her process a hybrid format mixing media, photography, print media, and sculpture. Through printmaking, she disrupts the media of photography to be left with the diffusions of moments on fabric. She reconstructs them onto sculptural forms to bring notice to the ever-evaporating moment and the fragility of memory. It is my pleasure to welcome Madison McKenzie to the podium.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Madison McKenzie. My friends here call me Mads, and if you're here, you're my friend, so. Like Leslie mentioned, I'm from the Downriver area of Metro Detroit, more specifically Wyandotte, if you're familiar. Growing up, my parents divorced pretty early in my life, so I spent a lot of those early years going back and forth between different spaces that I called home. They say it takes a village, and I can definitely say that there were a lot of people that were a part of my upbringing. While some of my childhood felt scattered, my most vivid childhood memories were spent traveling up north to my grandparents' cabin in Glen. It was there I found myself free to build, make, and play. And in those early curiosities of mosaics, sandcastles, and snowmen, I was enticed to create things. From the start, I was a very active child. Anything from hockey, ballet, swimming, rowing, wrestling, I had tried it all. And when I got the opportunity to row in high school, it uniquely meant that my teen years were spent waking up for 5 a.m. practice and heading to the river. Those mornings with the sunrise are where I first began to recognize my love for movement and the connection of my body moving the boat and the boat moving the water. The sunrise setting and has shaped my experience in connecting myself to environment through movement. This past year, I also got this opportunity to run my very first half marathon, and much of that felt like research for art. To move my body freely in space was liberating on its own. Tracking hours of time outside made me pay attention to the way the clouds changed and the wind blew past my body. To be moving in space and taking on the world of information. I do believe that this connection to movement and space is deeply rooted to that early childhood movement. And I have this constant need that drives me to keep moving. My journey in art really picked up when I found photography. For my 15th birthday, my grandparents got me my first camera, and I started taking pictures of everything in front of me. I signed myself up for every art class offered at my school for the following semesters until I ran out. My art teacher, Mrs. Stiles, pushed me to try everything I could, and when we didn't have the resources to do darkroom photography, she brought in her own enlarger and helped me set up a makeshift darkroom in our back room. And it was there that I found how time, light, and speed coincide with producing photography, which granted me this ability to capture and document. When I was putting together this presentation, I found this photo I took from 20. Another interest of mine from high school was mural painting, and I had an opportunity to revisit college where I created this mural with my friends Finn and Sebastian for the student exhibition at Western last year. These threads make me think that maybe we've always been the people we are. There's a brief story between my time in college and between my time in high school and my time in college, where I didn't go to college and I needed to get a job, so I became an animal control officer, which is a story for another time, but I can say that I didn't feel like I could save the world doing what I was doing. And so I saved myself instead, applied to the Gwen Frostic School of Art, and in 2021 began taking classes at Western. I've often been called a slow burner. They'd say, give her time, she'll settle in. My college experience was a lot of that. I spent a lot of early college years just trying to have projects ready for critique whilst holding 3 jobs. It always seemed like life was riddled with hard work. It wasn't until my 3rd year that I started to see the light of it all, when I was accepted as a BFA candidate in print media. I became really enamored at this concept of printmaking. That is, anything is a print, and to copy anything is to create a replication of an original, which really means that nothing is original, and thus means that every photograph I've ever taken is just a fabrication of a moment which has already existed, and that moment could never happen again or be recreated. It's only a picture or a copy or an iteration of a moment. Woohoo, complicated and existential, just how I like it. But in all seriousness, print media gave me this ability to endlessly manipulate media. It was through disruption that I found I could really start to understand the language of my own imagery. I like to think of this process as stripping the images of their photographic quality to dilute them of everything that once was. So this is where I start to understand, like, oh, I have this interest in domestic space and I'm always taking these photos of my walls, why? And so this bicycle picture is kind of that first time I diluted the photo of everything photographic and carved it in a lino cut and mono printed on top of it to try to sort of reinvent what space meant to me. Through my education at Western, I became inspired by the theory of looking, seeing, and being seen. I'm inspired by the work of Giso Kim, whose prints are altered photographs on Asian papers and fibers and adorned with embroidery. I'm interested in the work of Kathy Kolwitz, whose drawings provoke the most pungent emotions, and I attribute a lot of my research to Rebecca Solnit's A Field Guide to Getting Lost, whose words elicit the epitome of examining the uncertainty of the world. During this period, I got the opportunity to travel to the Pacific Northwest for the first time. And while flying over the mountains, I became enamored by topography. On this trip, the stillness of massive mounds of rock impacted me with this notion that my life and worries were so small in this large world of problems. And from there, I created particles. So this was a touche wash, which is basically an oil-based media that repels water, creates these reticulations. I kind of threw that down, created this organic shape, and superimposed my mountain topography image on there. And then I created a photo intaglio plate from it, and particles became. From there, it all spiraled. I still had questions, and in this, I'd ask myself, why did I take 15 photos of one shadow on the wall, or the power lines, or that one tree branch, or those gaps in the clouds? Was it about domestic space, or comfort, or intangibility? What am I really after here? And does any of it even matter? And then I would come back to movement and realize that all of these spaces are moving kinetically in time. I'd remember that the pace of the boat and my body moving the water and time and light and speed, and that none of it would ever happen again. It was the impermanence, it was the fragility, it was the moment. I aim to replicate the picture to remind us of the intricacies, to call attention to the mundane and ordinary parts of life in a world that can be riddled with overwhelming instability. It's a reminder to be with and beware, to stay tender and breathe deeply, to acknowledge the ghostliness of our very existence, and remember that we've already experienced many looming fragile endings. In my art, I feel like I have a capacity to keep safe the people, places, and spaces we once were. So I'm distilling this imagery through Photoshop. That's sort of my playground. I capture, distill, and I have this formula that I'm using to get rid of all that photographic pixel evidence. This is just sort of a side-by-side of some of the way that takes shape. I put this in action for the first time with my project Shift. I started Xerox transferring on matboard, and I cut up these little squares in 1 by 1 inch, 655 pieces, and I employed my friends to help me install it, and it was here that I found I really enjoyed the process of installation. This was a big breakthrough for me, and because I couldn't stand to let it never live again, I immortalized it on this board and recreated again. This piece actually won an award in our exhibition and is on display at the Capitol in Lansing, if you'd like to go see it. I'm continued to be really enamored with time, and I had a pressing family event happen in my life, and I really was considering my life and my years. So I set up these 22 candles in my apartment, because you can't do that at your school studio, and I lit them all and meditated and wrote about each year of my life as I put them out in 10-minute increments. And watching the candles evaporate and seeing the wax melt really gave me this sort of impactful understanding of what time really meant when it was evaporating. I showed this in my thesis show, Unlit, as a way to say, you should have been there, you couldn't see it again if I tried to show you. So this is Evanescent. Here's an overview of my thesis show. This is Fleeting, where I remade Makeshift and Shift again, in this time into bigger chunks. In art school they say, make it bigger, so I did. And so this is 72 light paper squares, and so the nice thing about this is when you walk by it, they sort of move with you. Here's a little close-up of those. And then Stabilize. This piece was inspired by a shadow that I saw on my wall every day that I really enjoyed. I took photos of it and laser cut it on the laser cutter and disrupted this image of the sun rising and setting on my balcony to sort of call attention to that circular time again. This is really pleasing too for me because I like the way that the shadows move when people walk by, and again, thinking about movement. I'm currently working on a piece composed of over 150 disrupted moments, Xerox transferred onto chiffon fabric and sewn to 2 half-moon shaped frames. This piece will come together to create a spiral with 2 coils where the movement begins to overlap and turn onto each other. To further investigate this fast-moving world and beware the still moments that are right in front of us. I myself am a ruminator, and I need time to write, sketch, walk around, and experience the world around me to make my art. Then from there, it's about image making. I'm always capturing, but then putting it through Photoshop and distorting and disrupting those photographs takes up a lot of my time. So this is kind of what my desktop can look like at some times. This is an example of how you can make one image become many, and each iteration has its own little bits of glory. I use the Xerox transfer technique for most of what I do. It's lacquer thinner. It's really bad for you. You should wear a mask. I print copies from the copy machine. It's that simple. And I put them face down on the matrice. Typically for me, that's fabric. Douse a newsprint in some lacquer thinner. Put that in there, sandwich it under some Timpin and newsprint, run it through the press, and you get a nice transfer. It's simple, effective. I really enjoy how you don't get everything from it. The new part of my process is fabricating these frames, which will hold the fabric up, and learning how to weld here has really been able to bring this to life for me. This is a little sneak peek of what the fabric looks like right now. This residency has been an amazing experience. It has given me the opportunity to dive further into the sculptural elements of my work. Learning how to weld opened up a world of possibilities and has expanded my practice. In some ways, it's really made me challenge my perception of myself and my art, and I'm starting to think I might be a sculpture artist or installation artist, but who cares? They're just words. I learned so many new skills here, including glass bluing in conjunction with Glass Arts Kalamazoo, glass fusing, and embroidery. Outside of my practice, I got the opportunity to participate in community engaging events like our beloved steamroller, which is just a sweet reminder of why I really love printmaking and sharing things with our community, as well as other KIA events like Project Night, Holiday Sale, and Make It, Take It. I am so grateful for the time I shared here with my fellow residents whose art inspires me to keep testing boundaries and whose spirits lift my heart. I'd like to thank Deb Matson for giving me the freedom to make my rather smelly style of printmaking work in our traditional studio, and I'd also like to thank Brent Harris for his incredible knowledge in fabrication and advice in troubleshooting for this project. Future thoughts. I've always wanted an all-encompassing career in art, so whatever that means, I could see myself working in a gallery setting again, or maybe possibly restoration. I'd like to figure out how to add a soundscape element to my artwork because I think it is really calling for that. I'd hopefully like to move somewhere with mountains eventually, travel more, run another half marathon, and definitely apply for an MFA program, possibly abroad. We'll see. You know, just keep moving, and hopefully through all that, I can keep the moments of the past dancing in the ether. If you came to this talk or if you're viewing from a distance, I hope you can join myself and my cohort in the celebrating of our exhibition opening Friday, May 2nd. Thank you so much for being here today. Does anyone have any